Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This presentation is because of the plenipotentiary position that I have, as well as the Chief Federal Postal Court Judge globally. It is about shutting down the vulture funds in Ireland. And I'll need to go through it with you step by step so I can educate you as well as inform you as to how you're going to handle this. The shutting down of the vulture funds is due to that your passports in Ireland, your passports are issued by the Department of Foreign Affairs. So if you have not heard what I have just said, the vulture funds are operating in your country because that the passports that the Irish people have is issued by the Department of Foreign Affairs. Although this is very much applicable to the Irish people, this is essentially happening all over the world. The mechanisms of fraud and using bureaucratic fraud is virtually identical in every country. And as a plenipotentiary judge, I'm educating you. And as a Chief Federal Postal Court Judge, I'm empowering you because knowledge is power. And I'm giving you knowledge. Once you have knowledge, you have power to be able to deal with it successfully. For those people that are my international students across the globe, a vulture fund is another way of saying that it's a third-party, unwanted interloper. What they commonly call a third-party interloper. That is all that they are. Treat them as such. Coming back on to why is it that the Foreign Office in Ireland issues the passports? Paraphrasing this, if the Foreign Office in America was issuing passports to its citizens, what is it saying? The Foreign Office Department, the Department of Foreign Office or Foreign Affairs, deals with foreigners, visitors, having a parley, communication with outside people from that country. That's what the Department of Foreign Affairs is. That much every American understands. For some reason, it has seemed to have bypassed the Irish people. When you hold a passport that has been issued by a Department of Foreign Affairs, they're essentially saying that you are foreign. If you look at your passports, i.e. I have a copy of it, or rather an elongated copy, it's got on there Ireland. Okay, and then it's got the spelling of your land jurisdiction, which is E-I-R-E. Era, which is the actual landmass itself, which you are native to. The Ireland, spelt I-R-E land, is the corporation registered in the stock market in New York. When you hold that passport, you are holding it because they are treating you as a foreigner, and also that you are liable for the corporate costs of the Ireland, spelled I-R-E, mistakes or profits, but unfortunately you don't share in the profits. That much you now have understood, as well as globally, because this is happening globally as well. The department of Foreign Affairs needs to know that you are a native. They do need to know that. Otherwise, under presumption and assumption, under corporate law, Robert's Rules of a Corporation, they believe that you are just a corporate entity and that you are subject to the British Empire, commonly phrased as the Commonwealth. Because if you are a citizen of the Commonwealth, who is the head of the Commonwealth? That will be Elizabeth II, only on paper. And since there is so much fraud, and I have shown you the fraud in the document using Miller's technology, David Wayne Miller disqualified it. So, to recap, the Foreign Office in your own country is issuing passports. The vulture funds are operating all over, mainly in the British Isles. And the word, era, and island are two different jurisdictions. One is landmass, which you are a native of, territorial claim, and island, which is the corporation. They're making you liable for the mistakes of the corporation. And not only that, you are a subject. Subject means to be subjugated, which is what is happening in your country, as well as the US, Canada, Australia, and so on and so forth, continues to be the magistrates or the magistracy's dominance, hence the word magistrates. It also is another word for magic, as it were, performing magical tricks upon paper in this sense. The vulture funds, repeating myself, are operating in your country. In your country, in your landmass, but operating in Ireland, which is the corporate jurisdiction, of which you need to claim nativity and your language. You have, even though I deal with David Wayne Miller's language, quantum language, you also have your Scotta language, the common language that binds you, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales together, a common language. You need to start thinking about what these things mean to you in terms of language performance as the world begins to understand and educates itself with quantum grammar. If you have not understood what I have said, I'll paraphrase it. You are using the tongue, which is a pronunciation of the common law jurisdiction that the British Crown operates in. So, for example, when a particular case is recorded, so-called against you, guess where that is recorded? It's recorded in a place called Registry Trust in England for cases in Ireland. That is like an American losing a case and it's now recorded in Canada. That much should now become obvious, needless to say. For the next element, which is the solutions to the vulture funds, you need to go to my website, the details of which are in the description box. And when you go there, you will find this document. These two documents you will find. One of these documents carries the correct sentence structure, past tense syntax, grammar flag. The other one, the St. George's Cross, which is the cross of faith and the treasury and a whole lot of other things, all to do with trust and faith and correct performance. St. George's Cross, of which you see standing behind me. These are the two standards that are in place. The all powers of attorney is one mechanism that I banned globally. In Ireland, your government, who essentially are treacherous to the natives of your country, they are treacherous to you, in other words, treason, have got you believing that there is a power of attorney on every single one of you that has ever taken out anything, i.e. mortgages, which is a death pledge. For the benefit of the Irish people and my students, we have syntaxed and parsed it and put our seals on it to disqualify this document, which is found in your own government's website, as nothing more and has been disqualified as nothing more than a worthless piece of babbled document showing the 100% engineered fraud in the document. And that is open to all my students in Ireland. I suggest you make full use of it. The mechanisms of how to use it, my students already know. You have been fully versed on it. While the rest of the island's population catch up, I suggest you visit it and make use of the things that are available, which are all factual. The second document that you're seeing is also the Power of Attorney Act 1996, Legal Office Notice number 3 of 2010. It is one of the mechanisms by which the British Crown or the British head take over the lands in your country. It does that globally. This power of attorney also explains, and it is written, and listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen, it is written in the Shakespearean language of poetry and pronunciated in Shakespearean poetic language. Poetic language is another word for babble, because one sentence in a piece of poetry can mean one thing to 1 million people reading that document. So if there is 1 million people reading that document, they have 1 million views as to what that sentence means. We call that poetry. And in that poetic stance, it says that the all powers of attorney was created by essentially the British Crown, because they're the ones that created this common law garbage. And it was developed under common law through the puny judges who deal with puny mortgages and death pledges, another word for mortgage. And it makes it very clear in poetry that this is all just a piece of poetry that's being worked on you, as long as you get to believe a Shakespearean document carries any worth, that a Shakespearean document has any contract claim. And all of you guys out there, and ladies, you are familiar with contract. Without contract, there is no driving license, no passport, no mortgages, no punies. There is nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you guys need to understand that. You have now been shown the fraud in the document by examining it. And all my students throughout Ireland, Scotland and Wales are more than welcome to use it, because you have one thing in common. It's called Scotta, a Gaelic language. So Ireland no longer has a power of attorney document. It has no access to it. Your de facto government, which is essentially operating under the act of treason, that is, they have sold the native people who are foreign. The government itself is foreign. That's what they're saying to you when they're issuing passports. Have sold you. And that's called treason. When one person or a group of people or a government works against its own people, we call that treason. The penalties of which you Irish people will have to start to formulate, needless to say, with my help. the change of subject now, which will be just as educational, is for you guys and ladies, you need to understand something. And ladies, you need to educate your men, because it is very easy to be lost in the world of denial. These are British banknotes issued by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is a private, non-public organization. What that means that there are no public laws governing private law. Private law quite literally means they make it up as they go along, what they do in the Star Chambers. And these are the court systems that are running in your country. They are private Star Chambers, creations of the British Crown, or their think tank, or whatever word that they use. The public notes are not just restricted to the Bank of England. They are also pertinent to the Federal Reserve banks, centralized banks, which are all governed by one private group, as well as dollars and the euros that the Irish spend. Just look at it. These are all private notes. Private notes are not governed by public laws, i.e. banking laws, money laundering laws. They are there just simply to disguise the fact that they are so very hardly trying to pretend to be obeying public laws and public laws of trust. I know it is challenging for everybody listening to this to realize that their private societies / secret society has members in their billions. That is a hard fact to understand. But less than 2 seconds of research will let you know that these banks are private and therefore operate in star chambers, in secrecy, in private, hence words like the Privy Council, which is a council operating in the private. I have shot a series of videos, educational videos, which will be released throughout the weeks, on what the privateers is and what the private organizations are. Your governments are essentially working for the privateers, which I will come on to. So, to recap, the courts operate in the private because you are using private notes. Privates are operations in the Star Chambers run by the British. For the Americans, it will tell you in your articles that the reason why we use the British to administer our judiciary system is because it just works out cheaper. Let me paraphrase this. In order for me to run my court system, of which we have globally, we have our own treasury, our own language, our flags, and our own country. It's like me saying that I'm going to bring in Martian judges and Martian lawyers to adjudicate on what is my responsibility. When that happens, it's the jurisdiction of who? Not me, but Martians. As comical it is, ladies and gentlemen, this comedy that I am expressing with you is there just to take the edge, the sting off what is happening in your world. When Donald Trump, on his plenipotentiary judgeship YouTube station or channel, came and said that this is the biggest voting fraud in history, he was making a public information broadcast, letting you know that the whole system is in fraud, of which he is not exactly immune from. If the president himself comes out as a plenipotentiary judge educating you to tell you the whole system is a fraud, he's not excluding himself. And that is something that is also the Americans and the Irish need to know, because you have a common language. Did you know the New York Department of Police is run by the Irish? I don't mean Irish people. They carry the Irish flag. If that carries the Irish flag, who do you think runs that district? Correct, ladies and gentlemen. Ireland. Change of subject. The Irish people, Scottish people, Welsh people, and all over the world are led to believe that you cannot stick together, that you cannot agree upon something. That is a lie, ladies and gentlemen, a lie that is conveniently perpetrated onto you so you don't form into groups and that you don't come together to realize you have a common traitor. Not the British, ladies and gentlemen. Your own government is not answering to you because, and I'm going to come to that as well, as powerful as the first subject was of disqualifying that all powers of attorney, I am helping you and aiding you here as much as I can, because what is knowledge? Knowledge is power. As long as they got you believing that you are not agreeing upon something, that you are at odds with each other, these private organizations will always win out because they got you convincing, which is not the truth. I am very well known in Ireland. I am in and out of your country on many occasions. Your television stations have done programs on me. Believe me, the Irish people can stick together. I will give you an idea of contradicting imagery that are in your mind that is essentially robbing you of your ability to make contact with your next door neighbor. You are not as divided as you think you are. You're just being sold on the idea. If I said to you, just one single word, the leprechaun, that, hey, what's a leprechaun? There are two images that will come up. And I know about neuroscience, and I know how it operates in the world of advertising. What are the two images that you get? You get horror, or you get a comical, wise person that can grant wishes. Either way, it is portrayed with you, for you, to make you think that it's a piece of comedy, that it's a mythology, that you really cannot grasp of what a leprechaun is. By the end of this presentation, I will tell you exactly what it means. Let's come on to another example. What if I said to you, the Roman Empire? What are the images? What are the images that are immediately in your head, put there by movies and cartoons and all of these programs that fight for space within your mind? You think of how torturous the Roman legions are against other people, that they crucify human beings, that they would ransack villages and they invade Britain and rape all the women and stuff. These are the images that you have, even though you don't have a single piece of historical evidence for it. Not a single piece. Not a single piece. And of course, that's thanks to, comically, the Committee of 300. Now, I operate within the Roman system. They're the ones that protect me under their Roman roads. This is about as contradictory as it can be in your mind, because there are things in your mind that has no business being there to rob you of your ability to understand what a Roman road is. They exist to this day, like the Roman Catholic Church. So let us come on to, say, an image that of the leprechaun. Examine yourself and you will see you have only one or two images of this word, as well as the Roman word. And reminding you, I'll come back onto the leprechaun. Before I do that, I need to go on to another subject, which is very relevant, which is, in your country, it is very famous for being Catholic. And in that sense, you have a man that constantly sacrifices and crucifies himself for the sins of yourself, albeit the people that perpetrated you. When you have people that you will willingly sacrifice and crucify, called Jesus, to suffer the things that you did and push it onto him and use it as a scapegoat, that takes responsibility away from you. And then power is no longer, knowledge, I beg your pardon, is no longer your power. You cannot find a scapegoats, and you cannot ask a man that it perhaps existed 2,000 years ago to hurt himself, nail himself, and do all of those things for you. And that is, of course, the images that are being sold to you, that he is suffering on your behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, just as men and women, you really do not want other people to suffer on your behalf. You will have to bear that yourself, and you have the strength. Believe me, you do. So get that imagery out of your head. Safety in numbers. When you gather together, hoping that you will get safety in numbers, you will get nothing of the sort. But if you can come together and agree upon something, you have just formulated the very beginnings of holding your governments that have been treacherous to you, treasonous to you, to count. And listen, keep listening very carefully of the information that I am going to share with you. You know that the puny judges operate in the Star Chambers because of the issuance of private notes. You also know that these puny judges deal with puny mortgages. That's what they're called. Just look it up. And one of the job of those puny judges is try to, behind your back, as it were, to fuse two pieces of document together. Because when you have two pieces of document, ladies and gentlemen, they are two separate cases. If one is so incriminating that it's essentially a crime, they'll want to keep it separate because they don't want to put their evidence in more evidence that they are incriminating themselves. That one of the jobs of the puny judges is to get these two documents and bind it together to say that you have given them power of attorney, whether you like it or not, over a death pledge. These are some of the tricks that you need to know about the things that happen in these in these private star chambers. You now know the images that you have in your mind are contradictory. I will now begin to explain to you, and I have to be methodical and steady as I possibly can in explaining this. You know that this is a private issue notes and it contains no laws because it's private law. Private law means they can make it up as they go along. These, ladies and gentlemen, are public money. These are public money. This is silver. This is Queen Victoria. This is a American Eagle. And this one is Canadian. These are copper coins, and they're all part of my treasury because we have our own treasury. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is gold, part of my treasury, which we back our houses and property and our live life claims with. Now here comes the crunch. What does a leprechaun want? What is it constantly able to do? Its pot of gold. It has a pot of gold, ladies and gentlemen. When you have these coinages and bars, gold, which is the currency of the leprechauns and the currency, and listen carefully, the currency of the public treasury, which is protected by public laws. When you are in possession of this, you essentially become that magical creature called the leprechaun. A leprechaun is nothing more than an Irishman, ladies and gentlemen, that has gold. Why? Because when you have gold, ladies and gentlemen, and silver or copper, it's no longer a liability. Because when you pass this on, it doesn't lose value. It's only the fiat currency that loses value. So you are not transferring your liability to somebody else. When you pay them in fictional notes, promissory private notes, when you pay me or I pay you, this becomes a liability to you because the price of it can go up and down. Historically, these things do not go up and down, but the amount of this you need to buy into this is what goes up and down. These images that you have in your mind of Roman roads and empires, of torturous people, of leprechauns and so on and so forth, they all serve a purpose in your mind, which are engineered to rob you of the things that I am so obviously making obvious. Coming back to the document that I show you of the power of attorney, please examine it and it will say these laws are created by judge laws, which means they make it up as they go along. And they operate in common law. And common law is the jurisdiction. Essentially, jurisdiction means opinions of the British Crown. A little quick search on Wikipedia will reveal as much. Hopefully, I've given you full closure as to what to do with the vulture funds. We have completely, the Federal Postal Court have completely disqualified Ireland's ability to use that all powers of attorney within their funny quasi-legislation and poetry language. Disqualified it because we have shown the fraud in the language. And you are not foreign to your country, you are native. And the vulture funds, which is nothing more than a third-party interloper, which tries to come in on your behalf because under poetry, they got you believing you signed a power of attorney. A document of which is separate from any other document because to put together in the public, well, you'll go to prison for that. And there are FEMA camps waiting for you. You can only lie so many times to so many of the people. Once you are in a position of lying to all the people all the time, your system fails. Ladies and gentlemen, liars lie because they know the truth. That is why they lie. That is why they hide behind bureaucracies and poetic language. Coming on to one of the television stations that did a character assassination on me, as it were, told you exactly what I was doing in Ireland and what I'm about to do, as well as a whole heap of other things, including the courts. They did that nearly, I think it's 4 years ago, of which is happening right in front of you. They were telling you who I am and what I'm about to do. But in the world of fiction, in the world of the images that are in your mind, it got you to believe, because you're so easily susceptible, because we're trusting people, that I am nothing more than a funny person. Well, I banished privateering, marks and reprisals globally. So much so, some of these privateers are now playing the race card. I'll leave that up to them. On the back of a production company called Harpo Productions. I'll leave you guys to do a bit of searches on that. It's rather pathetic. But what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, once you recalibrate as to what the facts are, why are these gold coins still available? Why are they minting still millions of it? It's because it's used all the time, ladies and gentlemen. When you become to understand public money, private money, putting your thoughts to paper with a pen, making this pen mightier than a sword. And when you have these currencies protecting you with the treasury, therefore you are able to tap into your constitution, which is tied to your treasury. This ties you to the treasury because you are now a stakeholder. I think I have explained myself very well for you to be able to get on with it. And these things are open to all my students in Ireland. The rule is know what you're doing. If you're not a student of mine and you do not know what you're doing, then of course your knowledge has no power because you have no knowledge. Educate yourself. What I have presented before you is life-changing in your country. Coming on to a different subject. For those people that have aided me and helped me spread my news, and David Wayne Miller as well, who created this standard and who was my mentor and teacher. For those people that have aided me in spreading that news, thank you very much. Thank you. For those people that are involved in trying to sabotage by suppressing my YouTube channel or anything else, you stop it right now. There are consequences. If you are using shadow banning, the word is shadow banning, if you are using that, there will be a place for you in the FEMA camps. You can only suppress so much, and then it's going to explode in your face. So on a good note, for those people that have been sharing these videos, thank you very much. For those people that are operating in shadow banning, your days are numbered. The subject matter of currency is of great relevance because currency is a maritime expression. And just like Bitcoin and some of the cryptocurrencies which are coming out are within the public domain are exactly like this. Your treasuries are collecting Bitcoins, which means they consider it to be gold, and they are protected by public laws. These currencies, which are private notes, private issues, the reason why I keep repeating myself is you need to understand that this entire planet has been in the private for many decades. The Americans since the 1929, when the privateers came in after bankrupting your country and buying out your government, issued you promissory notes in the private, making every single one of you members of their private society. Bitcoin is going up in such a pace that I need to speak to you about it. It's a public currency, and there are public safeguards in there, of which I have described on many occasions and done educational videos on, which are on my website. You need to go and have a look at it so you can educate yourself to get yourself away from this and into the world of this as well as Bitcoin. because Bitcoin holds no barriers. Full stop. Change the subject. Because of the massive fraud and the failure of performance, whether it's in the public or the private, I have bypassed their land registries globally, including in Ireland. And I have set up where you can put your lands, your houses, and your live birth certificates of live birth, into a Lloydal title with a language of mathematical precision, Miller's language, and a flag of St. George's Cross, which is the flag of faith and the flag of the treasury. It's the flag of my treasury. And my treasury has gold, silver, copper, as well as Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and a court system, and a country of its own. We have done this for the benefit of mankind, because they can no longer be slaves to one or two people that have convinced themselves to be gods. And I'm referring, of course, to the Committee of 300. What is it like, ladies and gentlemen, in your own minds to know that the gods that human beings have been worshipping, whether it's in Ireland or Scotland or America, whether it's a singular god, or are nothing more than bank accounts, a means of which to remove sweat equity and commercial energy from you? To bypass all of that slavery nonsense and that common sense nonsense, common law nonsense, your loyal positions on this planet is secured. On that, ladies and gentlemen, I will remind you what it means to pay your own way, what it means to have silver and copper, and not to pass these notes around believing that they are actually public notes. These are becoming more and more worthless. Bitcoin is showing you that, as you now need over 50,000, I believe, Federal Reserve notes to best buy one Bitcoin. That's how much the Federal Reserve notes, centralized banking notes all over the world, have lost value. On the other note, on another note, you cannot allow other people to sacrifice their lives for you. That is an act of cowardice, and my court system, the language, the treasury don't accept cowards, because it's a subhuman condition. We are not here to sacrifice other people because of the sins and the mistakes of other people, any more than a carpenter 2,000 years ago was. I am very passionate in what I do, and I'm very gifted in nature allowing me to do what I need to do. And I'm very gifted and very thankful that David Wayne Miller was my teacher and mentor. I am very grateful that these two flags came to me without a single drop of blood being spilt. I am so grateful that David Wayne Miller salvaged this flag without a single drop of blood being spilt. It's the same with this. And it is the same with the gold and silver. However, that is not true for the Federal Reserve banks all over the world, who get mankind to shed blood over this, fight over it, and pretend to give you the privilege that you are worthy to have a death pledge in your life called a mortgage. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, feel the power. The knowledge is yours. The knowledge is power. Take up your pen Put your thoughts to pen, to paper. Learn to autograph. Learn to understand how the gold works. Navigate through my website. Educate yourself and become more powerful. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I wish you all the best.